Welcome to the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 50. This week I'm joined by David Wild. We discuss his whole journey from Cornell to Rolling Stone, through the Grammys, and with the Adam Carolla Show. It was an honor to do this episode. I want to thank you so much for listening for the last 50 episodes. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is my landmark 50th episode, and I just want to thank all the listeners for standing by us, for the last year and a half. We had growing pains here and there, but you stood by us, and I'm just so glad to be celebrating 50 episodes doing the Andy Dare Show. Couldn't ask for a better guest. This week I was blessed to have special guest David Wild. If you don't know who David Wild is, Google it. And he's just a great guy. Couldn't ask for a better guest. I actually said later in the interview that I had to turn down guests for my 50th episode just because I wanted the perfect fit. I couldn't celebrate 50 episodes with somebody who I didn't think was perfect, to spend the half hour, the hour with. And David is a great guy. He's funny. Now he's working with Carolla. He's a writer at Rolling Stone for 20 years, I believe. He wrote the Grammys. This guy is just full of talent, full of drive and ambition, and we do talk about it at length in the interview. But before I get into the meat of it, I would like to bring up my awesome sponsors. Being that Father's Day is really only a couple weeks away, I think you guys should definitely check out the Man Grate, a huge chunk of Detroit steel. These grates you just put over your existing grill grates that look like a coat hanger. With this huge grate on your grill, you are cooking through the convection of the heat, or through the metal, and you get those dark grill marks that are really difficult to get on those chintzy, coat hanger-esque grill grates that come with the grill. So do your dad a favor, get him the Man Grate, get him a couple of them, especially if he's got a big grill. If you click through on my page, it's only $20, and you get to support the Andy Dare Show. Just go to theandydareshow.com. It's at the upper right-hand side of the page. You click through the banner, we get to wet our beaks. You guys get awesome barbecue on Father's Day, and a really happy father at that. So that is the Man Grate. They've been an awesome sponsor. I just want to thank them for helping me along the way these last 50 episodes. And take a sip of my water, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue in picturesque Westmont, Illinois. They are an awesome family-owned, run, operated barbecue company. They're a family-friendly restaurant, open 7 days a week in Westmont, Illinois. That's about 20 minutes to the west of downtown Chicago, right by Downers Grove, kind of the Hinsdale area. It's an awesome restaurant, but a lot of people don't know that they are also a full-service catering company. And in the last couple of years, they've really upped their ante as far as catering goes. And if you're looking to have an awesome party this summer, why not book through Uncle Bub's? They've actually booked up a couple Saturdays already. But they have the real deal barbecue. They have smokers to bring out to your party. Put the pig in the smoker. Have it, have that delicious hickory smoke smell waft throughout the neighborhood. We got grills. We've got barbecue experts. We've got nice grills to help you set up the buffet and make sure that your party goes without a hitch. And that is Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue. Give them a call if you have any questions. Obviously, they do pig roast, luau's, backyard parties, corporate lunches, anything. Call them at 630-493-9000. And if you're in the Westmont area, they're located at 132 South Cass Avenue. And check them out on the web. They have catering menus. They have pictures of what kind of services they can provide. That's UncleBubs.com. UncleBubs.com. And by Secondhand Mall, also in picturesque Westmont, Illinois. That's located at 309 West Ogden Avenue, really only a couple blocks away from Uncle Bub's. But as I said, last year my record store of 28 years sold out their inventory to Secondhand Mall, and it's a really cool environment. They've got all sorts of other things just besides the records. They've also got power tools, musical instruments, video games, computer gear, all sorts of stuff. They also buy, sell, trade, all sorts of stuff. If you're looking to turn that pile of CDs in your closet into a little bit of extra spending change, why not go to Secondhand Mall? That's 630-810-9980. Tell them the Andy Dare Show sent you for specials and offers, and check them out on the web. That's at secondhandmall.com, 2ndhandmall.com. Just really want to thank my sponsors for being there. These last 50 episodes, they've really helped me a lot. They've always been there for me. I want to thank each and every one of them. Obviously, Secondhand Mall has been there the longest, but couldn't have done it without you guys. If you're looking to have your website read on my next show, just check out my Fiverr page. That's Fiverr.com. That's Fiverr.com/Andy Dare, ANDYDER. And you'll get your website or your business, your podcast, whatever your gig, you will get that read on the next Andy Dare Show episode for just $5. So I can't tell you I'm going to keep that price that low for so long. So why not check it out? That's at Fiverr.com/Andy Dare. All right, what's new in the world of Andy so far in the last couple weeks? Obviously, Kevin Matthews has included me on his show many times now. I think it's 6 or 7 times already. Can't thank Kevin enough. He's let me plug the Andy Dare Show. I've been doing a segment called Talking Tunes with Andy. Been able to find new bands, new news stories having to do with music. Being able to express myself on the Steve Dahl Network has been great. Actually got to go to their show last week, too, at the Park West. It was a good time. These guys are really like radio legends, and obviously not like necessarily nationwide. I think they are, but a lot of people on the West and East Coast don't really know who they are. But they're so near and dear to the hearts of Chicagoans and Midwesterners that they are still kept in such high regard. I mean, Steve Dahl, Disco Demolition, obviously being on the Loop for 13 years with Steve and Gary. Now he's gone the podcast route. Obviously, he's a smart guy if he's doing that. So they broadcast only a couple towns away. That's a Steve Dahl Network. Subscribe today at Dahl.com and get the Steve Dahl Show, the Kevin Matthews Show, the James Van Osdale Show, and the newly added the Dino Show, let's just say. He's got a really long Greek last name. It is a really good show, though, too. He's actually the guy who played Starburns in Community, or on the show Community on NBC. Funny guy. He's got a lot of, pathos, and it's just an interesting show. Check it out, the Dino Show. But yeah, subscribe to the Dahl Network. It really amounts to being the price of your cup of coffee in the morning every day. So I really do recommend it. They're near and dear to my heart. But before I, waste any more of your time, this interview meant so much to me because David Wild, one of the smartest, most intelligent, but funny music writers that I've ever dealt with. Probably my favorite guest. I don't want to make the other guests feel bad, but I had a blast doing this. I will never forget this day. It was yesterday. I just reached out to him. I said, I want somebody special for my 50th. Can you help me out? And he took time out of his day, his busy day, to help out the little guy, and that means so much to me. And I want to thank David out of the bottom of my heart. I want to thank the listeners. Actually, I got a thank you list right now I'm going to give. I want to thank the Fleecast for, letting me dip my feet into podcasting. I was on that show for almost a year. They even helped me set up the studio a little bit at my house here. Without them, I couldn't even start doing the show. I'm really not tech friendly, so I really needed their guidance. And they were there for a friend, and it means a lot to me. Thank you to the Fleecast. I want to thank all the guests, especially my first guest, Giovanni Giorgio. He was there when I needed him, and he's been there a couple times. He's got a great show. He's got actually a new show called Pod Gods, where they actually discuss, rate, review, and network about the world of podcasting. That's Pod Gods with a Z. Want to thank Gio. Want to thank Katie Levine for doing the show twice. Thank Lynette Carolla for really blowing up my page when she came on, letting a lot of her fans stayed on with me, and that's important. That they, they tuned in, but if it wasn't a good show, they would just tune right back off. A lot of them stayed tuned in. Want to thank you for all the subscribers there. Obviously this year it's been amazing as well. Thank you to the Ed Miller. What a funny original guy. He reached out to me. Can't thank him enough. There's so many guests I could name right now. I just don't want to even get into it because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or step on anybody's toes. Just thank you to each and every guest that took time out of the day. I have not met one jerk doing this show. They're all nice people. Thank you to my guests. Thanks to the listeners, the Facebook fans, the followers on Twitter, the subscribers on YouTube, the subscribers on iTunes. All this jibber jabber amounts to thank you from Andy Dare. Couldn't thank you enough. And without further ado, my episode 50 with David. Wild. David, how's it going? This is Andy.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, you're on the Andy Dare Show, and it's an honor. This is my 50th episode, so thanks for taking the time out, for sure.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I'm sorry if I didn't mean to play hard to get.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, actually, I had to turn down guests for this show. I wanted to make this a special one, being the 50th and all, so I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather have than you. Yeah, you got the book Diary of a Player, came out fourth quarter last year. That's been an awesome ride for you, right? How's that been going for you?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it actually came out of Brad Paisley and I have worked together for years, most, intensely on the CMA Awards, which he hosts with Carrie Underwood, and we got to be friends, and literally just from tweeting each other, one of the followers of both of us said, "You guys should just write a book," which I think they meant you guys get a room, cause but honestly, I thought that's a good idea, and so we did this book, and it's really, really pleasant to do. And then, the way it worked is I talked to him a lot, and I took a pass at it, and then he took it and made it infinitely better. There's my favorite stuff in the book I didn't write. There's one joke against me that I love, and then, of course, I'm self-obsessed. And then there was one at the end. He wrote this emotional part that he added that was just so powerful. So, no, it was a total pleasure. I'm really proud of the book, which is why on Corolla, that's why I was hyping the hell out of it, because I really want people to read it.
That's awesome. It's like Brad's got a great voice. You can hear it throughout the whole book. And, a literate guy, it's not like you're writing with Toby Keith, who would be a different story, right?
Well, yeah, I don't want to compare. I have to say Brad is one of the funniest, quickest, cleverest guys I know. And, the funny thing is when I'm in Nashville working with him on the CMAs, it's like different people work different ways. And Carrie Underwood has lots of ideas, and she's unbelievably sweet, but I'll talk to her at a series of 3 or 4 meetings. Brad and I will talk every 15 seconds.
Wow.
And he calls constantly. He is one of those, he loves to get involved, and it's great talking to him because he's so much fun. And then, of course, after the show, he ignores me for another year.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's also very funny. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, just seeing him on the award shows and stuff, just a true consummate performer, and you could almost call him a comedian. I think he would be a great, he'd do a great podcast or show himself if he were ever to just, slow down for a minute.
If they paid really, really well.
That's the one thing.
No. In fact, I got him to call into Corolla because the paperback came out this week, and I got him to call in briefly for that, but I can't wait to, hopefully him to come in when he's on tour here, because those two minds would be scary, because Brad is the wisest ass in country, and Adam is the wisest ass in the world.
That would be a perfect matchup. Another thing about the book, you guys were able to keep it pretty cheap. I mean, I was able to get the hardcover for $12.99, and I mean the paperback's just out now. Did that help a lot with the sales? Not having to put it at $25 or $30.
I don't know exactly, but I know that me hyping it every single way I could. For instance, thank God for Carrie Underwood, because on the CMAs this year, she suggested, which I was waiting but too afraid to do, that we do a joke with the book. So she suggested it so people listened to her, and she did a thing where, she pretended to be reading the book when we came back from commercial, and then he asked her, "You reading anything good?" And she goes, "Nope," and threw it over her shoulder. And I love her because that's the best commercial you could ever have for a book.
Exactly, and they're always funny together. A lot of chemistry, and I'd love to see you guys working together. So you're now pretty much a weekly guest on the Adam Carolla show. How did you end up getting that? Was it just like a guest spot where you guys hit it off, and he said come back, or?
I'm trying to figure it out because it's a weird. I think you might be the only person on Earth who. He's never asked me. I don't think he would know, and I'm not sure I know. I think partly what happened is I was actually a guest on his old radio show, phoning in once, and I should say I am like you. I worship the guy. I think he's. I go back to having written an early piece on Howard Stern years ago at Rolling Stone, and I thought Howard was the funniest sort of mind and quickest mind I ever encountered, and I work with a lot of funny minds because of all the. I write with a lot of comedians and for a lot of comedians, so I'm exposed to a lot of great minds, but his is the most beautiful mind. I'm such a fan, so I called in once to the show, and that was great. But then I think what happened, it really is Lynette Carolla, who she heard me on Greg. We ran into each other at a movie night, and she goes, "You got to come on my show, and you should go on Adam's show." I said I would love to, and then I think Greg Fitzsimmons had me on. And it ended up being like this 2-part long thing, and I think she maybe heard that and said, "Come in and do my show." And I think maybe he heard her. I know she pushed for me to be on his show. I went on his show, and then almost immediately after that, he called me like a few days later, and then they asked me if I would come in, once a week, and I of course was thrilled to. And it's become this thing. And again, the funny thing is, week to week, because I travel around a lot. I've missed a few, but I sort of always write like on Thursday. So you guys want me to come in next week? It's not like any big formal arrangement. And the funny thing is, like, I get these. And excuse me, stop me if I'm rambling too much.
Don't worry. No.
But the funny thing is that, like, so once he said that, I said, well, maybe I'll bring in occasionally musicians who are friends and people who I think would be interesting to have in. So, like Chris Isaak, who's a really close friend of mine, who I just love to death, and who is, again, a great mind, like Brad or like Adam. He came in, and that was very fun. And then Joe Walsh, who I was working with on something I asked in, because I love his new record, which just came out this week, finally. And so now I get tweets from people saying, like, why haven't you had blank in? As if this was my job. And the thing is, this is not my job. This is sort of my hobby. And I'm not. They're a great team over there, but like it's not like it's so organized that it's just sort of. It's when it happens. I bring someone in, and the timing is hard because Adam is incredibly busy. I'm pretty busy, so it just become this fun thing. And I have to say, I do a lot of. I've been on TV a lot, just in terms of I hosted a show on Bravo years ago, and then I was on. Every bad behind the music and a couple of good ones, and a lot of biographies. So people have recognized me in the past, but nothing has compared to in TV. Nothing has compared to the podcast. I literally get stopped for my voice now every once in a while, and because people who listen to Adam, I like you and like me. It's not just like a casual pleasure. It's like he's like a very big part of our lives. My wife goes to bed a little earlier than I do, so. I literally lay in bed and listen to the show almost every night. So I'm one of those fans, and I sometimes feel like I'm representing fans when I go there, and sometimes I feel like when I read the nice comments, it means a lot. Occasionally I'll see the mean comments, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I generally like to be paid to be insulted.
That's true. Yeah, I've never seen anything grow as much as podcasts, the whole world of podcasting in the last 3 or 4 years. You could compare it to cable TV in the early 80s, stuff like that. But, I'm actually doing a music minute out here for the Steve Dahl Network. Are you aware of who Steve Dahl is?
It sounds very familiar, the name.
He did the Disco Demolition in 1979 at Comiskey Park.
Steve Dahl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I've been asking a lot of people out on the West Coast, and I'm surprised how many people don't know who he is. But I mean, the guy is like one of the original shock jocks. Howard Stern got a lot of his game off Steve. But yeah, they've been so nice to let me do a minute for them, and I'm on the Kevin Matthews Show underneath the Steve Dalton Network banner here. And
great.
it's weird because it's a pay site, so a lot of my schlubby friends won't shell out to hear me. But yeah, everybody else, I've been getting a lot of good feedback on that, and the guy is a consummate performer, just a really funny dude. But yeah, I would like to have Steve Dahl sit down with Carolla. I mean, he's got stories from the 80s and 90s that are pretty mind-blowing. But yeah, as far as you bringing on the guests on the show, do you have anybody like in the next coming weeks that we can look forward to hearing?
Well, it's totally. I mean, again, it's so crazy casual. People wouldn't believe it. Just on just the day before I came on, Monday this week, I said, hey, you guys want me to see if I can get Jacob Dylan, who had said he wanted to do it, who I love and is a great guy. And they said, oh, no, we have Pia Zadora, so, maybe no, go bring someone. But and I said, well, how about if I have Brad Paisley call in, because we have our book coming out that day. He goes, yeah, that's great. So it's all very casual, and it's not like I'm not a booker. I'm not offering cars. I'm literally just, when I talk to, like, in 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, in an hour and a half, I'm supposed to do an interview with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins, one of your local rock gods.
Longtime fan, yeah.
Yeah, and, it's like if Billy were here and it was like a Friday or Saturday, I'd say, hey, are you here Monday? You want to come with me to Carolla? That is how casual it is. And, I mean, recently I was in New York working on a TV thing, and I was going to call in with Adam Derwitz from Counting Crows.
Sure.
He's a friend of mine, and Adam lost his voice the night before, so we didn't do it. So it's not like, I appreciate that people think I'm such an intrinsic, important part of the show, but I'm really just a goofball who's bringing friends in when I can, and maybe it'll become something more than that eventually, but who knows? But right now, I'm literally just enjoying it, and I feel like it's like a government job. It's like being the Secretary of State. I serve with the pleasure of Adam Carolla. So I don't know if he likes me. I think he does, but he's like a great guy. He gave me a ride home, which is amazing. I think he mentioned it this week on the show that my sons who worship him, along with my wife, my sons, I'd been gone for like 2 weeks working, but they literally ran out the door, and I don't think it was to see me. I think it was to
see the Ace Man. Nice.
Yeah, to see the Ace Man, who they literally quote his books like they're like biblical.
Scripture, huh? Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that it's so like loose, and I mean, there's no creepy program director like breathing down your neck. Who we got this week? Right?
No, absolutely not.
That is awesome. It's really just kind of like what radio should be, and obviously people are jumping off radio like it's a sinking ship. So you were an editor at Rolling Stone still. I've been a subscriber for almost 20 years now. I'm such a dork. I really love the Slim magazine, like how they've got it now bound on the side, and it's a little slim and it's sleek looking. That was a great idea because, I mean, I've got all my old issues from the 90s, and those things aren't holding up as well with the staples and stuff like that. I mean, I think these new ones, they'll be good, in 20 years. These things will still be, look like they're just right off the presses.
Well, I'm sure the magazine appreciates that too. The truth is, just because it's an age thing, like you're pretty young, right?
Yeah, I'm 28.
Okay, so you like that. There are like old hippies who are furious about the change of the design, and truthfully, it was done not for any aesthetic reason. It was done because we didn't fit in to like any of the usual magazine holders, so they couldn't have us in supermarkets, for instance. So I think, truthfully, it was just a purely economic decision, but it doesn't seem to have hurt the magazine. And I think the magazine has had a good, the last 5 years when most magazines are like collapsing, I think Rolling Stone is still a vital magazine. And, I'm proud that was sort of my launching pad. I haven't launched all that far, but it's been my launching pad.
How long have you been with the magazine for?
Since college. I graduated college and worked at Esquire. I got a huge break. My professor, writing professor at Cornell, visiting professor named William Kennedy, wrote a book called Ironweed, he won the Pulitzer Prize, and he just pushed me to Esquire and got me a job out of school. So I worked at Esquire for a couple of years, and then Jan Wenner heard there was like this. I started a record column in Esquire because I'm just such a music freak, and Jan heard about it and basically hired me away. And I've been on the masthead for most of for decades, and it's less of truthfully, most of my career now is writing TV shows and books, but it's great to still be connected to the magazine. So it's been pretty interesting.
That's really cool. Like, I mean, that magazine's been around since the late 60s. I mean, I even have a couple copies of, like, from 1971 where they're all, like, the yellowed newspaper look to it, But is Jan Wenner just a crazy genius? Or is he more normal than people expect? Or what kind of guy is Jan?
He's a fascinating guy, clearly, like, one of the biggest figures, figure in my lifetime in journalism, just kind of groundbreaker. Has a lot of nerve, had the balls to start Rolling Stone, the balls to keep it going. Just a smart guy who, and with a great sort of sense of
what's next.
Eternally youthful in his thinking. A fascinating guy. A great friend to have, a bad guy to piss off.
I can see it.
Great figure. It's interesting. Like, you meet guys who are at the best at what they do, and they're almost always really strong characters. Like Adam is a certainly compelling figure to me. I'm enjoying the opportunity to try to figure him out a little better and get to know him. But like all these guys, it's like, fortunately in my career, I work with a lot of extremely successful, powerful, interesting people. You don't get to be that way generally by being, a weak character. So I'm very lucky. I think I've gotten to meet almost all my heroes, which is they tell you not to do, but I'm glad that I have.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I ask for in life, really. I mean, I don't really care about the money too much. I just like to glean a little knowledge out of some of my, childhood heroes, the people that I've worshipped growing up. I think that's more important than anything material as far as I can tell,
Well, that's for me, I have to say, I've had, almost everyone, just times when I sat in, got to sit with Bob Dylan to do a brainstorm session. I'm like, this is a guy who made me want to write, and I'm sitting writing with him. And even just like yesterday, I was with the Beach Boys, who I loved as a little kid, or Ringo, who's a good friend of mine, and I get to write for these people all the time. They're literally the people who made me like music. And the crazy one was my dad worshipped Sinatra, and I grew up around a lot of Sinatra. And when I was just moved out to L.A., I didn't have any friends, so I would go to Vegas and see Sinatra. And Sinatra heard about this Rolling Stone guy who was there, and I ended up writing liner notes for him. And literally, I'll never forget it because I lost my dad a couple of years ago. But I mentioned him on the liner notes duets, and he called me crying and said, you just paid me back for college.
Wow.
Because I never thought when I had a little kid that he would end up putting me on a Sinatra record. So music is, to me, especially the music stuff, is so emotionally powerful that it's amazing to find, I'm still living out those childish dreams, and I'm still childish.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. That's deep. Speaking of the Beach Boys, I just picked up their new album, and I'm very impressed with it. I wasn't expecting this, this rate of excellency, deep in their 60s. It was funny because I really liked a couple tracks on the album. That Isn't It Time is great. And I was like, I just kept replaying it. And then when I actually got the physical album, I looked and I saw Jim Peterick got co-writing, credits on that. And Peterick lives about 5 minutes from me. He's, the guy who wrote Eye of the Tiger.
No, I know who he is. And,
yeah.
In fact, because there's that guy who also, the guy who did Soundstage in recent years, I forget his name, who was involved with Brian and that record. So, there was that little, that Chicago influence. And by the way, I took my family on a vacation in Chicago this year, and I cannot believe how in love with the city I am. I got to figure out I wish there was more TV, event shows and things shot there, because it is the greatest American city. I got to get back soon.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous city. I love it. That's why I'm out here. I mean, it's tough to break into the entertainment industry, but I kind of like being, kind of like the outcast, the big, big fish in a little pond. But yeah, back to Peterick. The guy is, great songwriter. I've actually been trying to book him on Corolla. I know all the producers there, and Adam's mentioned him a bunch of times how he was able to, he smelled out that the same guy wrote Vehicle, who wrote Eye of the Tiger, and who wrote Hold On Loosely by 38 Special. I think that the guy is a really friendly guy. He's good on air. I think that would be an awesome interview too. Maybe you guys should somehow work that out. You ever met Jim? Or?
I have not. I definitely know his stuff. I reviewed Survivor for the Cornell Daily Sun. That's the last time I think
Whoa.
I would have been around him years ago as a student. But no, see, the thing is, it's been interesting because a couple of times they seem to be booking musicians like Taylor Hicks, who I actually knew very well and worked on I wrote his book with him. He was booked the night I was there, so it's a lot less trouble for me when I just walk in and it's like, hey, it's Pia Zadora.
Nice, they got somebody for you already.
Yeah, but there are people I definitely want to bring in, and I'm hoping that if this keeps going, the idea is let the artist call me and say, hey, I'm going to be in town that this day, let's do it then.
Sure, or even maybe a David Wild show on the network. I know you're a super busy guy, so that might be a long way off. But you're great on the mic. You're great. You got the good chemistry with all the guests. You're funny, which is rare with a music guy. Sometimes there's stiffly Stiffersons on the mic. But yeah, I think
that's my birth. I was born Stiffy Stifferson, but I sounded too Jewish, so I changed it.
That's good. Yeah. So you wrote the Grammys. You co-wrote the Grammys this year. I definitely think it's the best Grammys in maybe even 10 years. You guys had a lot thrown on you in the last minute with Whitney passing and everything. Is that one of the most memorable award shows that you've ever took part in? LL Cool J was great too. So.
Oh yeah. In fact, I'm doing a thing with I might not be on the Corolla show next week. I don't even know if this is again how casual it is, because next Monday when I normally would be there, I'm doing a panel with the Grammy team, the president of Maris and Ken Ehrlich, executive producer, and LL Cool J, who is one of my closest show business friends, my hip-hop god, Dave Grohl. So it's going to be I think 5 or 6 of us talking about the Grammys and showing a little film about this year's show, which was definitely one of the most, it's always an intense, interesting show and my favorite time of the year, but this, having to sort of rewrite a lot of the show the night before, was fascinating and emotional. And this film, hopefully, I think it might be on the Grammy.com site relatively soon. It tells the story, and we talked to Grohl and LL. Clearly, the truth is, LL saved the day because I've done the Grammys for I think it's 11 years, and we've only had a host 3 of those years. I had worked with Jon Stewart twice and Queen Latifah once. So if we hadn't had a host, it would have been a very, very tough thing to do. But LL is so good and such a great guy because the story that will be in this little film, which is, amazing, is that he had already rehearsed his open, which I think we'll probably recycle some of it for next year's show. Who knows? But he'd already rehearsed, and then it was maybe at 2:00 he called me and said, so David, I love all this stuff. Tell me we're locked and loaded. I said, we're locked and loaded. And then about an hour and a half later, we heard that Whitney had died, who he knew and I had worked with a few times and who Ken Ehrlich had worked with a lot. And I called LL and I said, LL, I have to tell you, we're unlocked and we're unloaded. So it was literally sitting down and trying to figure out what to do. And fortunately, with LL's guidance, we pulled it off.
Yeah, he rolled with it, and that's something that's very important in showbiz. I think LL will be the first old school rapper that will actually embrace his adulthood and his elderman in the game. I think he'll be the first to actually be proud of being one of the older rapper in the game and use that to good effect. I don't see Flavor Flav doing that as much, or Dr. Dre obviously. I think LL could actually even do a thing in Vegas or something like that. The guy could just be cranking out the hits and have have success years and years to come.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm going to see him Monday, but also I have another little project with him that I can't discuss. He is, to me, I've worked with great guys, and like I have learned that the secret of being successful is to hang on to the great people you work with, like, and do anything you can with them. Like Brad, I will do anything I can do with Brad because he's the best at what he does. LL's the same thing. It's sort of like these people make you look good, and I don't want to name names, but James Franco. Like, if you end up working on an award show with someone who, isn't really fully into it and invested in it, it's trouble. It's like you commitment, especially in that little weird hosting thing. It's everything. Like, I work with, and I'm fortunate to work with some of the best. Like, I just did 2 back-to-back things with Justin Timberlake, who I work with all the time, and that guy has made it. I literally was like, I think the first national magazine interview he ever did was with me with NSYNC, so I've known him forever. And the whole time I've known him, he has had this sort of intense commitment to what he does. He tries hard. Like, if I write a speech for him, I write a lot of speeches with him and for him, and
sure.
He always will say, like, if there's a phrase he doesn't get, when I get these calls from people and they tell me, I don't really get that phrase, I go, cut it. But he's one of those guys who goes, no, I want you to explain it to me because I want to know he wants to know everything. Like, the funniest version of that was when he hosted a show for his, like, record company executive for, like, I think it was, like, the B'nai B'rith or something. It was a Jewish organization. So I wrote this whole Jewish speech for him that we then made better, which he always does when we go over it together. But he was like, how do I pronounce every word? And I'm like, no, it's funnier if you don't. But that's the kind of guy he is. He wants to know everything, and that's why he's gone from, like, there's a lot of guys who are in boy bands who are not, superstars, and he is one.
Very true. He's still busting his ass, 15 years after NSYNC began, and I mean, that's important.
Great guy.
Yeah. And that's another thing about these important people you're bringing up. They still bust their ass, even though they have millions in the bank. They're still, like, trying to reach that next plateau, which is very important, right?
Well, that's what I think that's one of the secrets of life that I've learned from watching people who stick around. Is like my favorite people to work with are if you're the hardest working people. If the hardest working person is the person who's tough, that sets a great like I think Adam seems like he's constantly working. I work a fair amount, but I mean, Chris Isaak was the same way when I worked with him on his show. He will lead the way because they set an excellent example.
They're not comfortable being where they're at. They want to keep building at it. That's awesome. How about this? Have you ever heard of a new alternative country group called Honey Honey?
No, I have not.
They were on the Joe Rogan podcast about a month ago, and it's a guy on guitar and a girl singing. She's beautiful, and they are incredibly awesome. Like Joe, he usually doesn't have performances on his show. It's mostly just talking about MMA and psychedelics. But like this time they brought in the guitar. They sang live in the studio, and they've got incredible chops. I think they're going to be huge. They're on Lost Highway, so I mean they've already been found by Lost Highway, the record label. But these guys are awesome. I think they're going to be the next big name. I compared them to Sugarland, kind of, but a more dangerous Sugarland, kind of.
That sounds great. Yeah. No, I mean, I happen to, I sort of grew up in New Jersey, but listening to a lot of country. My dad, the first concert he ever took me to when I was like 8 was Niggerty Dirt Band.
Cool.
And I had we had a cleaning lady who was from Jamaica who loved country. So
weird.
I was like this Jewish kid from Jersey. I've always loved country, which it really has helped me over the last couple of years. I ended up doing a lot of stuff in the country world because I respect country, and there's a lot of people, frankly, in the rock world who don't.
Yeah, I don't understand that because I mean, people still buy records in Nashville, and like the music is very important to people in Nashville. Unlike the people in like the big cities like L.A. and New York, it seems like they're just all about burning what's new, copying their CD, not buying CDs, not being really interested in helping the artist out. It seems different in Nashville.
Part of the reason for that, I believe, is that country artists treat their fans better. They actually have a relationship, whereas I think a lot of rock bands literally just squeeze every dollar they can, and I think that's not true in country. They respect their audiences more. Also, the reason I love it is I like songs. I mean, I come down to I just like songwriters and singers, songwriters, and that's where a lot of that's gone to Nashville because increasingly it's hard if you don't sound like Kesha or something, it's hard to get airplay in the sort of pop world.
Very true. Yeah, it's funny. Like my parents, they live 5 minutes away from me in the Chicago suburbs, and 2 doors down from them lives one Alison Bonaguro. Are you aware of her?
Yes, no, through Twitter.
Yeah, that's really funny. She writes for the Tribune. She's had an article in Playboy. She's very cool, and she goes to all all the award shows. She's pretty, so they put her right up on the red carpet and she got all the pictures with all the big celebs like Lionel Richie and stuff. But she's super nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, she seems great through. What's weird is through Twitter, and I'm wild about music, at wild about music, and I'm still trying to beat Rick Springfield because I've passed Rick Astley. But through Twitter, I feel like it either has put me in touch with people who I don't know, who I feel like I know, or there's like old music friends who they know more about what I'm doing than my wife does because my wife doesn't really give a damn about me on Twitter. But yeah, so it's like my inner thoughts are probably more often shared with Sebastian Bach and
Allison
Branch and Brad Paisley and LL Cool J. They probably know more about what's going on in my head than my wife, which is maybe a terrible thing, but I still like my wife more.
It's a useful tool. I mean, at first I was skeptical, but then, slowly but surely just being able to reach out to people you'd never be able to talk to 10 years ago with just a quick sentence seems like it's something that is a necessity nowadays in 2012. But yeah, I think the social networking stuff is actually a good thing. A lot of my friends and stuff, they're trying to get off it. But I mean, if I really want to spread my name, spread what I can do, I think that the social networking, you need it nowadays, right?
Well, it's a weird thing for me because, I think I don't do any of the other social media. Someone set up a fan page for me on Facebook. I haven't been there. I don't even know the password, but I like Twitter instantly because I think in about 140 characters. I'm not a very deep thinker.
Sure.
And I also constantly, it's like when you sit in a room for one of these award shows, I'm constantly thinking of stupid things to say. And I like to share those and get feedback if they're funny or not. And then also I happen to have, a life that growing up, I can't believe the people I'm around or dealing with on a pretty regular basis. So I think if I can share a little of that fun with other people, besides name dropping, which I'm not above clearly, but I do think it's I can give people a little fun or insight, but maybe not. And also I have to say it's very I think I'm at 15,000 something, and it's I feel like in my mind I'm now an arena act.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to think of what the hell can I say to amuse these people?
Exactly. I like the one-liners. I like little quips. And another good thing about Twitter is it's not just pictures of, I'm 28, so now my Facebook feed is pictures of ultrasounds and weddings and bridal showers and me and my hubby and all this stuff. It's just, I kind of just skim through it and go, okay, back to Twitter. I like reading thoughts of people that I admire, and that's what you get with Twitter, which is important. So.
Yeah, and the weird thing is I do I take when I'm at an event, I did the Guys' Choice Awards for Spike, which are on Saturday, and I'm taking these shots backstage, sort of moments with whether it's Channing Tatum or whoever, Adam Sandler, and it's I figure at least it's a different perspective on celebrity. I have this, I enjoy my weird perspective, so I figure why not share it a little.
Yeah, it's kind of like a backstage pass. We get to see what you're seeing, which is kind of cool. From the comfort of our couches, it's interesting.
Yeah, I hope so.
How about this? Adam doesn't really respect Dylan as much as most people do, but I'm a huge Dylan fan. I've got almost every album on CD, so that's 30 CDs, something like that. How about a Dylan moment that you haven't had the chance to bring up on the Carolla Show? I know you've been able to deal with Dylan multiple times here, so.
I'm not sure which stories I've told. So
you told the Tom Petty one, and I think that's pretty much it. I do like Carolla's joke about Maggie's farm. That's pretty golden right there. But I do respect Dylan.
My most amazing. I spent 3 hours with him, 4 hours with him, brainstorming something, and it was mind blowing because just amazing to be in the presence of your hero. And I got so comfortable with him at some point. I made some reference to a movie, a really obscure movie he'd been in, and how he'd been in this really bad fight scene, which is ironic because now he does box he's gotten into boxing, but I mentioned this, like, he threw the worst punch I've ever seen in film history at Rupert Everett, and I found myself he goes, show me. I actually imitated Bob Dylan throwing a punch, going, ugh, and I realized I'm doing it for the guy. And like, I have a lot of those moments in my life where I remember like being in Buenos Aires with, is it Buenos Aires? Yeah, with McCartney, and like arguing Beatles trivia, and realizing, why am I arguing? He would know, he was there. And it's like, yeah, but he probably smoked more pot than I did in the intervening years. So, so I literally have, you have those moments where you go, and the weird thing is, usually I'm right when I argue something about their life, because I'm the loser who, I wasn't, busy being a rock god. I just was being a music geek in Jersey.
Studying it, yeah. That is so incredible. I mean, I've only got a couple more questions. Just keep you for a little bit longer here. How about Darius Rucker? You ever spend any time with him? We've talked about doing an interview. I mean, I've never seen a guy take a career arc like that, where a mega selling kind of alternative rock band. I mean, some people won't call them alternative rock band, but a huge stadium successful band, and then taking time off, and then reconvening with a different sound and having almost the same success, but in Nashville, right?
Yeah, he's a lovely guy, and I do know him. I know him fairly well. I did a show with him. Besides like the stuff with Hootie in that era, I did liner notes for Hootie for a best of, but I did an Al Green special where he appeared and sang, and it was amazing to see, because he can sing anything. He's one of those voices; he can do anything. And then to have him have the country success, he made a sort of big moment at the country. His big sort of moment of acceptance was when he won a CMA and performed there and killed. And I was with him that night. I mean, because I do the CMAs, and he's worked with Brad a great deal. He's a great guy, and no, I love seeing that. And for me, that's like I happen to also really like country, breaking down all the barriers. Charlie Pride clearly did that before, but it's nice to see, him just sort of get his due in Nashville. So it's been nice.
Sure, it seems like they've, been totally respectful for him. And, I mean, for years, I'm sure he just got Hootie, and was kicking himself for it. And just, he sat down, wrote some classic songs and put them out. And what was that, 2009 was his first country album. I mean, I couldn't not hear any of those songs that summer. It was just, I think they had 5 or 6 singles off the album. And it totally, I don't think he's getting Hootie that much at all, if he is getting Hootie.
No, I don't think as much. Yeah, the music world today, it's very hard. It actually came up on Corolla this week where he was talking about Blues Traveler, and if you get frozen in time with certain MTV hits, it's sort of, some people never want you to move on. And I think that's part of the nice thing, is that Darius was able to reinvent himself and get people to hear him again. Part of it is that, as a culture, we just want to get onto the next new thing. It's and definitely, there's not much. It used to be there was a lot of rock press magazines, and now it seems like in the sort of, as the world goes online, it's just all about what's new, what's young, what's
Sure.
next. That's what a lot of it seems to be.
It's like everybody's got ADD now, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's well put. I think that as a culture, we definitely have a lack of attention span.
That's very awesome. How about what's next for David? Coming up this summer, what you got planned?
I am working on a few TV projects. I just ran through, a bunch from Billboard Awards into Guys' Choice Awards. I'm doing a new show I can't really say much about coming up in the next few weeks, and then I'm working on a book right now with CeeLo. That's the next book, and it is worlds away from the Brad Paisley book. It is Brad's book is this really, I think, inspiring book that I would get if, anyone who, especially a young person who loves music or is trying to figure out what their passion is, that's what that book is for. The CeeLo book is wild, like the man. He's quite the character. So that'll be, I think, some of my summer.
Cool. CeeLo, I can compare him to LL being a rapper that's lovable that your grandma would like,
Yes.
But I heard that coming up he was quite the gangster, in the South, right? He came up in what, Georgia? Or?
Yeah. He the Dirty South, and it was pretty dirty.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he's a it's amazing to see these again reinventing himself brilliantly. So he's an amazing character.
Very awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll end it there. David, thank you so much for taking the time out doing my 50th here.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. They can follow you at Wild About Music, and do you have a official website they can all go to, or?
I don't. I barely. Twitter is about as much as I can keep it together.
Cool, but weekly on AdamCarolla.com. Right?
Yeah, well, it's weekly until further notice. Until they tell me not to come there, I will be on.
Awesome.
I might even still come if they tell me not to come. I might try a couple times.
Just break in the front door. Yeah,
exactly. Breaking and entering. That could be the name of my. If they do my own podcast, it would be Breaking and Entering with David Wild.
Nice, awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing it, David Wild About Music at Twitter, and until next time, this is Andy Dare signing off for the Andy Dare Show.
Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter. That's at Andy Dare, ANDYDERER. And like our show on Facebook. That's Facebook.com/The Andy Dare Show. Videos at YouTube.com/Andrew Martin Dare. And it all leads back to TheAndyDareShow.com. Support our show by supporting our sponsors, The Mandrake, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, and Secondhand Mall. Thank you so much for listening.